Yes, it is Marvel Contest of Champions news for Monday the 16th of April 2018. It's great to be back doing some Marvel Contest of Champions news because I think there hasn't been as many stories to kind of cover, but this one is so jam-packed. You need a piece of toast to spread the jam on. It's so nice, and obviously you can choose whatever kind of preserve you want to put on top of your toast. But that is the news in a nutshell. It's not in a physical nutshell. I'm just going to shut up because I think that would be really important to kind of get into a lot of these news stories because I'm well pumped and well excited. It's a new week, lots of content planned, lots of writing stuff is taking place, and Contest of Champions memes 3 is done as well. I've put together a little trilogy thing which is going to be out next week in coincidence with the Infinity Wars film. So let's jump into these exciting news stories. Our first story kicks things off with regards to Android feedback. My apologies when we talked about the iPhone and kind of Apple and kind of iOS feedback with regards to like experiences with lag and other things in the game which Command were investigating. I did miss out my good buddies of Android variety. Obviously, if you play the game on Android, you're going to experience a lot of like performance issues as well when it comes to the lag. That is something that is incredibly disappointing at the moment. This is the link in the description. Make sure you go down to it if you're an Android player. Obviously, there's the iOS version, but I've talked about it twice and forgot you lovely people that play on Android. Obviously, I do play on a Sony Xperia kind of XA1 or something, and that's really to kind of get an idea of like how you guys have experienced in the game so that I can experience the game as well, and also kind of get an idea with regards to like is, you know, content a little bit more easier on iOS based on like performance and optimization than it is for people that use Android devices. But obviously this is the feedback sheet here with regards to kind of going on to the forum post, letting them know the following details. So the model, the kind of like cellular thing with regards to like, you know, using on like data, 3G, I don't know, whatever it is in different countries. I think it's called cellular, I'm not sure. With regards to stuff with regards to like Wi-Fi, even like what's your download speed, those kind of things, operating system, yeah, you name it, it's there. What kind of like update of the game you're using, making sure that you're obviously giving the developer as much feedback as possible, so then obviously they can take it to like game team and give a more kind of rounded view of things. I hope that's the case because I'd like to think that there will be decent feedback with regards to like, well, what can they do to improve the game for operating for different people, because that is an inherent problem we have. Someone that may be in Vancouver on a fantastic internet connection, like the best lease line in the world, will get a better experience from the game than someone in Mumbai using a very kind of low speed internet connection. Shout out to the people in Mumbai. But that's the thing, like different people in different parts of the world experience things with regards to speed and kind of server interaction than say I would in particular. I get a better game usage out of work than I would be at home. And the next story is something that you will probably know, is that there has been a backtrack with regards to the Sentinels implementation, with regards to obviously a lot of negative, and like it's a huge negative feedback with regards to these champions being added in. There's lots of things with regards to like playing the Sentinels. I think it's only been this week that I've kind of gone, do you know what, in the last AQ I found myself like having better performance against Sentinels based on like understanding like how they work. Though the chaining, the specials chaining is something that was a bit of a pain in the butt. So you go from like, you push them up to an L2, and then they may even build up to an L3. And obviously they can't do the L3, but they were doing the L2, which obviously is fun to avoid, and then go and chaining it into an L1, which was incredibly frustrating. So obviously that's something that is really good with regards to scaling them back, because they didn't need to be that powerful. They needed to be kind of closer to the symbiotes that were kind of like rough cannon fodder, but it meant that obviously we weren't spending quite so much with regards to glory, because hey, we need that glory. That glory is helpful with regards to getting tier 1 alphas, getting the tier 4 basic catalyst fragments. Really important for players to have that availability with glory, and so they're not spending it. Obviously, yes, you can spend units, but you know, it needs to be a case we need that glory for the better things. Spending a load of units it's kind of like more important than spend on other areas of the content, which, as you know, with issues in game with mechanics, is kind of like we're finding that, oh yeah, energy refills seem to be the biggest spend with regards to units, and obviously for mistakes when it comes to when the game is trolling us mercilessly. There are a lot of micro-based changes with regards to the Sentinels. I do implore you to go over to the forum post and just like have a look at it, just to kind of refresh your memory with what is changing next AQ. And just before we leave this story, just to kind of shout out this kind of last line, which is kind of applicable to things like, well, they say about rewards, and hopefully it's a case that rewards can be improved with regards to Alliance Quest. I'm not saying that they should be like amazingly and drastically kind of changed. But with regards to the way and the amount that we need of certain things, I think they have definitely got to improve like rewards as they go. There's a few things in game that reward improvements need to be done. Alliance Quest being kind of low on that list with regards to the way the game has scaled, and you know, the abundance of 5 stars that you need and 5-star shards and other things, especially with gold, which is vitally important nowadays. So yeah, hopefully there's improvements in the future with regards to Alliance Quest rewards. Our next story up is all about lag. This for me has been one of the worst weekends to play Marvel Contest of Champions than I've ever played before. This really goes hand in hand with that kind of Android thing that I was talking about. There is an iOS based page for this with regards to feedback. But like I said, for me, and I don't know if anybody else is watching this experienced the same thing, I was using my iPhone 7 Plus. You know, a good phone. It's not well up there. It's been a little bit old now compared with like tech that's been released with regards to like iOS. But the thing is, it hasn't been running at all well. I'm talking like I was having blocks broken, my parries weren't on point, and it's usually a case that you can actually see your parries being on point a lot of the time, but with regards to like how it's been this weekend, it has been a very bad experience. Like I said, I'd be interested to hear back from you, the player base, whether or not you've been experiencing the same thing. It's good to know that I didn't feel that it was me just kind of like missing up the timing of it. But a lot of people have been giving feedback on the forums, especially close to like iPhone 7, iPhone 8 Plus. You know, loads of different types of phones and kind of stuff have been listed. But I did feel that the lag as well as the responsive nature of the contest this weekend has been incredibly bad. The big concerns that I really have is after, and you can usually gauge this by Alliance Quest performance, if your prestige as Alliance hasn't really changed that much, you are kind of outperforming or kind of going up with regards to Alliance Quest kind of positions, say your placements after the run of Alliance Quest. If you are going up, then you really need to consider, and again, let me repeat that, if your prestige hasn't changed and you find that after the Alliance Quest placements are kind of like done for the 5 days and you're finding you're going up, the questions are alliances losing people dramatically and therefore not able to complete Alliance Quests? And the second thing, is this due to Sentinels kind of messing up a lot of people's way of playing in the game? Are people then accepting people with lower credentials, or are people dropping off the game as a result of maybe mechanics not working out with regards to just general playing? I'm not here to really kind of get on the bandwagon to kind of like put the negativity towards Kabam, but I do find it quite unusual that 2 posts, one about Android and also iOS kind of performance and usage, has been raised as a thing as feedback. Because for the last, say, several months, it's not been a problem since, say, about November. But then it's got progressively worse for a lot of players. And this particular post about things after 17.2 seemed to really hit a negativity with regards to, like, nail on their head with people going, do you know what, like, enough is enough with certain things. Like, I'm kind of thinking about changing games. Either way, I really hope that there's not a kind of a big wave of negativity with regards to people's thoughts with the game, but I do see it there from time to time. I spend a lot of time looking at the forum, so I really hope that there's, number one, people who are watching this now, get your feedback in with regards to iOS and also Android, because it is really important. The developers need to see things. If it's something like the way that the AI has kind of sped up, even though they're saying that it's not, if we're feeling that it is as a community, then that's something that really has to be addressed. And obviously, you know, I do reach a stage with playing the game if I kind of get frustrated and go, oh, do you know what, this is just getting ridiculous. And that has happened in the last week, especially because obviously, like I said, I read a lot of this stuff, so it kind of, I have to try and be as positive as possible by giving you the news, but at the same time, we need to give feedback to them, and hopefully at some stage things can be changed to help out and benefit a lot of people, regardless of what device they're playing, where they're playing, and also that the mechanics are there with regards to a smooth running game for people. Next up, the fantastic Marvel Contest of Champions True Course has put together the immunity kind of debuff list. This is a great list. It's it's more of a chart than a list, but it is a fantastic tool with regards to getting ideas and kind of future planning with regards to, you know, what champions you're bringing in, what you're putting up against certain things, you know, say Sabretooth is Cold Snap immune, so obviously that'd be kind of good for taking her off against Iceman. And then there's loads of different things with regards to like Incinerate and as well like poisons. So all of this is really handy stuff if you're thinking about planning on, you know, Alliance Wars placement or what to take against certain champions or kind of like just general knowledge. Then this is a fantastic tool. Shout out to Marvel Contest Champion Strukos, and make sure you are following him. Link as always in the description for this site. Next up is all about featured Grandmaster crystals. These things are the bane of my life. Literally are the bane of my life. And I'm not talking about the buff bane or debuff bane or the negative effect, whatever bane. Bane's a bane because it's like, it is a bane of my life. And obviously it's a bane of a lot of other people's lives, because obviously we spend a lot of money with regards to try and get the decent stuff out of these crystals, especially when new champions come in, like obviously Proxima Midnight. And I'm obviously going to shout out one YouTuber, and there's many to really kind of like shout out with regards to this, because I've been there. Like, if anybody watched the channel and the Sabretooth opening, I knew that I was going to get shafted. I always seem to be shafted by featured Grandmaster crystals, but it's worth like the fun, really. It's all about the fun, and that's why we do it, I think. And Vex is the YouTuber I'm going to talk about. He takes it in good stride and a bit of a joke, and obviously I'm going to put a link to his video in the description, because it's a funny video. It's like a second parter, and yeah, I just think he like takes it in a very kind of joking way, because let's put it this way, it is incredibly difficult to get a Proxima Midnight or any featured champion out of the featured Grandmaster crystals. They are just incredibly trollish with regards to their luck. There may be some that got incredibly lucky, but this article was quite interesting on the forum. I strongly suggested going over and having a look, and they kind of felt that obviously there wasn't much of an appearance of Proxima Midnight, so therefore the kind of the pull rate should be really investigated and have a look at. I don't know, it's a very odd game to play. Do you think because they were entering a champion that was on not exactly the same part as Star-Lord, but had similarities, and I quote that word very lightly, similarities, that she would be incredibly popular, therefore the drop rate, even though obviously it's razor thin as we know drop rates are, but with regards to say what people were getting, then is that questionable? I don't know. I'll leave that up for you with regards to a discussion point. You can talk about that in the comment section, or go over to this forum post and have your say. And our final story is this. Surprise, surprise. And obviously this just like throws everything out of the scheme of like believable or what the hell is going on. It looks like we're getting a Nomad Captain America, or a Wakanda enhanced Captain America, or an Infinity Wars Captain America Infinity Wars. Don't know with regards to name. I'll put it out there with regards to speculation. I've still got my own theories about things with regards to like Wakanda enhanced, because like thinking back to when we had Spider-Man Homecoming coming out and we had a Stark enhanced, would this be Wakanda enhanced? Because obviously the weaponry that they've got is technically from Wakanda, but obviously it didn't come up with Spider-Man Homecoming in brackets, or Spider-Man Homecoming movie. I think that obviously this changes the game to one or two things. So obviously we talked about in the past that potentially we were getting a playable, or kind of when you get out crystals, so you know, bring your wallets, featured Grandmaster kind of thing, a Thanos like Infinity War or Thanos Infinity Gauntlet, which I think may change, and that may have been a boss, or will be a boss, leaving the playable characters to be an Iron Man, potentially Stark, it's not Stark enhanced, but Wakanda enhanced, or an Iron Man Mark X, depending on that, or some other kind of thing, Infinity Wars. But it looks like obviously we're getting Captain America joining in on the action, and obviously we'll be able to kind of use that champion. What will this mean? Will it mean that we, instead of getting a science one, will we get instead a skill one? Will we get a tech kind of Captain America? Is that possible? 2 techs in 1 month? You know, what are we actually going to get? either way, it's going to be quite exciting, like what happens for next month, because obviously we've got April, so we've got May. This puts it into a 2-parter. There was talk of potentially putting this into a 3-parter, so a part 1, part 2, and a part 3. So we've got a trilogy taking us into June. But I don't think that is the case. I think we'll probably wrap things up with an Infinity Gauntlet boss version of Thanos, and then be joined by Iron Man, whatever kind of enhanced it is, or Mark something or other, Mark X, Mark 10, whatever it is, as well as a Captain America, maybe Wakanda enhanced, maybe Nomad, maybe Infinity Wars. Either way, we'll be quite excited to see what happens next month. So that's been your bumper edition of Marvel Contest of Champions news. Yes, it's the best way to start the week. You've gone back to school, everyone's back kind of like working hard. Let's find out a bit more at the game. At the same time, let's try and get this dialogue done with regards to like the problems with the game, because it's not smooth all the time for every single player. There's going to be different players with different experiences on different types of internet connections wherever in the world, and obviously the way that their device is going to communicate with the servers and whatnot is not going to be as smooth as others. So have a little bit of consideration at the same time, have respect for one another, and help us out obviously by giving that feedback to the developer, and hopefully, I say hopefully, we can get a smoother running game. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this edition of Marvel Contest of Champions news. Have a great week, whatever you're doing. Hopefully there's some more news going to cover either tomorrow or Wednesday. I've been RichTheMan. Make sure you like and subscribing, hitting notifications on. And as always, I shall catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye for now.